The Fujifilm X-T5 has been a camera I've been wanting to try for a long time now. Following the widely popular X-T3 and then a slightly disappointing but still decent X-T4, which I still use, the X-T5 seems to have answered a lot of photographers' prayers. Today, we're going to test it out and see if it's as good as I've been hearing it to be. I'll also be doing a comparison video between this camera and the X-T4 in the future, so stay tuned for that. Let's get started. General impressions. At a glance, the Fujifilm X-T5 is a familiar experience if you're used to the X-T series cameras. It has more or less the same shape, same movie mode switch, and same manual controls as the previous versions. One difference I noticed, however, was a slightly larger padding for the viewfinder cushion. It also has nicer door hinge port things on the side. The X-T4 has these flappy, easier to break hinges, while the X-T5 has stronger pop-out doors. Which, I forgot to get pictures of these, so you'll just have to take my word on this one. But these are neat aspects about the upgrade, keeping the same base while also improving some smaller, finer details. The biggest change, however, besides the megapixels, the video specs, and all the other upgrades, was the screen. I know some of you might be tired with how much time I spent talking about screens, but I feel like they matter a lot. Screens affect the user experience, functionality, and overall appeal of a camera. And one of the reasons why I like the X100V and 6 so much is because of their flush tilting screens. It fits the low profile casual point and shoot style. And one of the reasons why I was most interested in the X Pro 3 was because of its unique screen. It's interesting, different, and encourages viewfinder shooting. But it is a bit debatable whether it's better or worse for the functionality of the camera. More on this in a future video. And with the Fujifilm X-T4, you have a fully articulating screen which is well suited for many videographers. Which means that the screen itself changes the purpose of a camera. And with the X-T5, they seem to have created the ultimate screen for photographers. It's able to pull up for waist level shooting, pull down for top down shooting, and even pull out for lower vertical photography. Which the last one I didn't even know was possible. And to use this screen, you simply push in on the side button and then pull out. Which is great because now you've got a screen that can do it all. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the X-T6 had another button on the other side, which allowed the screen to pull out and face forward. That could be the ultimate screen for hybrid work. So overall, I was quite pleased with the body shape and build of this camera. All of that combined with the same battery as the X-T4 has me feeling like this is potentially the final form of a good workhorse photography camera. But we still have to test it out. Thoughts on photography. Photography with this camera was an interesting experience. I brought the X-T5 with me on a couple of daily walks and street sessions, and it seemed to perform quite well. With it, I was also testing lenses like the 14mm f2.8 and the 27mm f2.8, so those were the main lenses I used. And in the time I had it, it performed great. It's about what you'd expect from a Fujifilm X-T series camera. Reliable, sturdy, capable, and solid. All of which are adjectives I feel like go well for a workhorse camera. I've mentioned that a few times now. What does that mean? This means that this is a camera you want to have for taking the brunt of your photography work. You can technically use it from anything from street photography to landscape photography, but in my opinion, its larger profile and performance makes it more suited towards things like landscape photography and wedding photography. A slimmer, sleeker, more casual design like the Fujifilm X100VI would be more suited towards everyday, casual, and street photography. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use the X-T5 for those purposes, it's just those cameras feel more suited towards that. And I think the X-T5 is a great option for people needing something more serious or professional. And it might be a bit overkill if you're just a casual shooter. As for the screen itself, it was good, but not as useful as I expected. In terms of waist level shooting, the screen was a bit stiff to pull out and move around. Similarly, I didn't use the vertical hinge as much as I thought I would. I found myself most of the time using the screen as is because it was quicker to do so than pull it out. Again, this might be because my preferences are for more quicker and candid photography, whereas this camera feels a bit more built for something more heavy duty. Meaning the hinge is stronger, it won't break as easily, and makes sense for someone doing something like landscape photography and mounting this camera on a tripod. Whereas the screen on something like the X100VI is lighter, looser, and easier to pull out. So it's interesting, but this is probably more user specific than a real deal breaker. I also found that although there were many other upgrades like the upgrade in megapixels, video specs, and other things, I didn't feel like I needed them. Using cameras like the X100V and the X Pro 3, I found 24 megapixels to be more than enough for my purposes. They might actually even be the perfect amount. I've yet to examine how deeply the amount of megapixels affects the aesthetic of my images, but as of right now, they're not a necessity for me. Also, unfortunately, I didn't shoot too much video with this camera. I don't know the exact specs, but I can sort of guess. Better resolution, better specs, better video as a whole. So I took a few B-roll clips of myself, but nothing substantial to give you guys a full report on. So that has been my general experience with this camera. Let's move on. Who is it for, and final thoughts. If you're looking to buy a camera in 2024, the Fujifilm X-T5 could be a great option. It's robust, sturdy, works well, and is reliable. I do, however, think it fits a certain type of photographer. As I mentioned before, the design and functionality suits a landscape or wedding photographer. Or maybe if you're a professional photographer doing photo sessions, sports photography, gigs, etc. This camera feels like it was meant to be used often and beaten up. Now again, this doesn't mean that you can't use the X-T5 for more casual purposes, but I think other cameras are better suited for that. Cameras like the X100 line, the X Pro series, and even the newer X-T50. The X-T5, however, feels like it was meant to be beaten up, not slung around your waist for a nice cup of coffee on a Saturday morning. Now, at the time of writing, it seems like you can get this camera for around the ballpark of $1,800 plus on the high end, and $1,400 on the lower end. These lower prices you have to be patient for and get lucky, but it is possible, which is a good thing. It means it's much easier to get the X-T5 as opposed to other cameras like the X100 series. And if this still sounds like it's above budget for you, I'd look into older X-T series cameras like the X-T4 or the X-T3. They're still great cameras and you might not need all the bells and whistles of the X-T5. So anyways, that's enough of me today. I hope this helped. I hope you found this useful. If it did, please share this video with another friend. Also, check out my new photography zine, The Sinking Sun. This is a project I spent a lot of time and effort working on, and I think you guys might like it. Plus, you can grab a free 4x6 print in the link down below if you haven't yet. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Peace.